Let's rewind. Take a taxi with me back to 2013 or 2011. At this point in time, you and everybody fell for the zombie craze. Developers were basing games about zombies like crazy. Look at Valve's great success with the Left 4 Dead series. It was incredible. It changed the game. But it wasn't just video games. Movies were enthralled with zombies as well. The worst of it all was when they made video game adaptations of zombie games. It was a zombie movie about a video game and it wasn't very good.
Can you believe they made 6 of these Resident Evil movies? 6 of them. Not a single one has above a 50% Rotten Tomatoes. The best one is actually the first movie, and the second best is the last movie, maybe because people were finally happy that they would never have to sit in a theater and watch this again. From early 2000s to the early 2010s, we saw the zombie cash grab begin. The zombie obsession was revitalized in the video game industry in 2009 and 2010 when Valve released Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2. These games would go on to change the mold of what a zombie game is, creating a horde aspect that is beloved by gamers across the world. Even today, this game is still being played. It opened up the floodgates for so many more companies to decide, we're gonna take a stab at this and we're gonna show you what a good zombie game is. But really what a lot of companies had in mind was we need to make a crap ton of money to make our investors happy. Let's take the original Dead Island game as an example. It came out in September of 2011 and the hype building up to this game was real. There was a trailer that was released where it showed a family on vacation at this beautiful paradise island, which ended with this little girl turned into a zombie. This absolutely took the internet by storm, becoming viral. For 2011, this game checked all of the boxes. It had co-op fun, it had zombies, cool weapons. Gamers gathered around with their friends waiting for the release date so they could take on this incredible story with incredibly fun mechanics. Then it came out and this is what we got.
Yo, bro, who got you smiling like that?
The game was basically broken. What it lacked in an intense and immersive story, it made up in funny montage potential. Just like that, it was in many ways disappointing. But 2 months after the release of Dead Island in December of 2011, when the zombie genre seemed to be in its last leg, Naughty Dog released this. While Deep Silver was quickly putting together Dead Island to ride off the wave of the zombie genre, Naughty Dog decided to take a stab at their own zombie world. Yes, I know they're not zombies, I know they're infected, I'm aware, I'm just gonna refer to that because that is the category that the game was released as, so excuse me as I continue to do this in the whole video. Okay, let's get back to it. Except, Naughty Dog took their time to create this new IP.
To bring what we've learned in the Naughty Dog method of true character development and characters that resonate and have depth and conflict with each other, and you feel that tension that Joel and Ellie are feeling, and you feel that pressure being applied to them, and you're with them moment to moment because you're there trying to survive just like they are.
In my playthrough, even though I know what's already happening, there's sections that I just don't want to play through. I'm actually taking a break right now because it's just so deeply emotional. That's what makes this game good. It's the fact that you can sit there and Ellie can be bothering Joel.
I walked into my sister's room and tripped on a bra. It was a booby trap.
You do a quick time event where Ellie has to jump over a fence, and even though you know she'll probably be fine, you worry that what if there's a clicker on the other side? You know, games like Dead Island weren't doing that. But these characters were so well fleshed out that you wanted them to survive. It wasn't a matter of they will survive, it's a matter of I will make sure they survive. These decisions that Naughty Dog made to release this game in 2013 truly cemented the blueprint of what video games could be. They moved them away from being this awkward dialogue heavy weird interaction to, hey, why don't you hire real actors, put them in mocap, and have them act out a scene. This shook how games were being made. If you look at a game like God of War Ragnarok from this last year, 10 years later, this blueprint is still being used and it's still successful. So how did The Last of Us do it again? How have they been able to catch lightning in a bottle in a video game adaptation where so many others have failed? You might be thinking to yourself, they just copied the game over, word for word, bar for bar.
Word for word, bar for bar!
Yes and no. Let me explain. We're gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning of this video. I talked about how Resident Evil made these 6 movies where they took this video game and they basically named their characters after characters in the game, had things happen in, you know, like a prison, like kind of like the game did, and this and that and this and that. Here's where it gets really fun and interesting. there's a little lost in translation, as somewhat like to say, and the video game developers stop caring about whatever the movie producers are doing, because the video game developers want to make their next game, and the movie producers want to sit there and talk to Capcom and be like, what ends up happening is like, hey, we'll let you use this IP, just pay us a bunch of money, take creative liberty. So then you get Resident Evil, where by the 6th movie, it has nothing to do with the game. And we can kind of see that again last year with the success of the Halo series that no one ever. People did not like the Halo series because it did not stay faithful to anything of the original source material. When Paramount Plus uses an IP such as Halo, they're probably trying to get Halo fans to go over on their platform and subscribe to their, streaming service. And I'll be frank, HBO is doing the same thing. They want you, me, any Last of Us fan, go over on their platform because that's the only way you can watch The Last of Us, and to subscribe and give them money. However, HBO Max is actually working with the creators of the game extremely closely. They are giving Neil Druckmann the ability to control the way that their characters are being portrayed in the series. If there was anything in the show that Neil Druckmann and his team and Naughty Dog said, hey, no, that is not representative of The Last of Us at all, it probably wouldn't have been on the show. It's not a word-for-word copy of the game, and that's all right. I think you have to admit that there's parts in the game that are very action-heavy, so how do we address this section of the game where there is some little story sprinkled in, but it's an obstacle and there's a lot of action? Well, a studio could just kind of make their own decisions. HBO Max, the director, and the people working on the show are actually taking the time to be, hey, let's get their input, And this is why any deviation of the game in the show potentially is going to feel authentic, because you're getting the people who created these characters 10 years ago. Whenever you work with a source material that's not yours, that has such a large fan base like this game does, you have to respect the community, you have to respect the creators. If you look at the actors I hired to play the clickers in the game, which the clickers look amazing, the actors are actually people who loved the game so much that decided to dedicate a good chunk of their life to learn how to imitate movement of the characters. A lot of times you wouldn't expect a big company like HBO to find people like this and be like, hey, do you want to come act for us? What an amazing opportunity. Anyone out there who loves this game now is able to be part of the universe that they fell in love with. If you're doing a video game adaptation, it should feel like the original. Throughout the series, there's a lot of fans like you and I that are like, this happened in the game, and Joel said that, and Ellie used to say that all the time. You would think something like that would be cliche and it wouldn't work, but it's almost like a welcome and home to the hardcore fans. Just like in 2013, they're doing it again in 2023. They're reinventing the zombie genre. They are showing all of these movie studios, just how they showed game studios like Deep Silver. This is how you do it, and this is the bar that you're gonna have to meet in order for people to watch your video game adaptations. And if you don't do it, nobody's gonna watch. Thank you for watching this video. Here's another video. If this is not your first time here, make sure to subscribe and have a wonderful weekend.